Right then, let's see if we can figure this out. I have been told about channels. So, that means we're going to change things. Probably not going to send any of this stuff in ArcMutex. What we're going to do instead is figure out how to structure our different parts of the program so that they can communicate via channels. So we've got things we need in OIDC client, which is a core client, shared between OIDC authentication flow start and OIDC AXIM route handler. Then we've got this does not need one-way channel. Needs one-way channel to client. Doesn't care about the response. This one also needs one-way channel to client. Doesn't care about response. Oh, actually, maybe that's not true. Because what does it need to do? Needs to get the no, actually it doesn't. Doesn't need to. All of the client creation stuff can happen in a separate part of the program. Okay. So then we need Twitch IRC needs to receive tokens, needs to receive all tokens when it updates. And potentially will it handle its own refresh token, or will we have the IDC client do this? Probably the latter. And then we've got event sub Helix needs to receive auth token when it updates. Unless there's some kind of central cache for the auth token, in which case would we share it? Hmm. Would we share it amongst using arc mutex and notify? Probably, right? So we'd abstract away all of the stuff like CSRF nonce and so on, and we would share the token and potentially the refresh token as a sort of a auth state using arc. And then we would just need to update it every now and again. And just pass it to each one using arc clone. Plus or minus notify. So can we, is presumably the OIDC client is responsible for maintaining the token. The client is responsible for maintaining token state, including claims, etc. Hey, Nympho, how you doing? I'm afraid it's pretty dry. It's me learning about async Rust. I don't know. I have a huge amount of time either. I'm just waiting for my partner to get home. How are you? Okay, so hey, this guy New Zealand, Kiwi represent. Welcome. It's pretty dry stuff. I'm staring at my editor. So essentially, we're going to get, in addition to what we have, we need some space here to plan this out. Just comment out all this rubbish, except for those bits. And then we need an OIDC. How am I? I'm determined to understand async Rust. That's how I am. Had a 4.5 to 5 hour stream last night where I basically beat my head up against a brick wall. And then I asked on a Discord, a Rust Discord today, and they said, "Oh, you should be using channels." I'm like, "What's a channel?" So now I'm learning about channels. You're a little tired. You've been helping out in Dad's workplace with tire change season. What? I didn't even know it was a season. Is this coming into summer? Is that what happens? Or coming into winter? That's going to essentially equal Tokyo spawn async move, and then it's going to be like OIDC client, which doesn't exist yet, and I have no idea what it's going to take. Something like that, and then this would be essentially the start of authentication. It launches the OIDC flow. And then we'll just get rid of those for now. Then OIDC server, well, it doesn't have to be just for OIDC, but server. Yep. And then so that's three things all to do with OIDC. And then we would need chat. And that's going to be chat listener. Just strip these all back to their bare bones. Now I need to get rid of, there's a config you can do to get rid of those stupid LSP warnings. What is it? Yes, virtual text false. Go away. Thank you. Too cluttered by half. I know I'm full of errors at the moment. I just need to sketch this out. Okay, so we've got chat, and then we've got let, what for want of a better word, we'll call event sub. Something like that. So we've got these sections, and we'll just ignore this for now. But eventually we'll need to run that against all of them to convert the results types. We've got basically 5 sections. We've got the client, which is responsible, let's try spawn. We've got the client, which is responsible for communicating both with Twitch and, well, just with Twitch. So that's responsible for sending and receiving requests. That way we don't have to create a new client every time we need to use it. That communicates via channel with the other async processes or the other async tasks. We haven't created the channels yet. And then we've got auth, which essentially kicks off the OIDC flow by sending requests to Twitch, who then redirects it to, in our case, localhost 3000, where it is received by OIDC server. And the only thing server needs to be able to do is send a request via our client. So it needs a one-way connection or a one-way channel with the client. Then we've got chat. Chat needs a token. So it needs the OAuth token that these 3 things have created. Now, whether that sits in one of these arc clone config things, or whether it gets sent by channel, I'm not too sure. But I think probably the former. So probably send updated tokens plus or minus refresh token, a de-esser. What's a de-esser? I'm totally green. You need to tell me these things. plus or minus refresh token via arc clone and notify. And then event sub needs the same thing basically. All right. So now we need to know what channels we need. So I need to swap to a brilliantly white screen, always a bad idea. Multi-producer, single consumer, single producer, single consumer, broadcast, and watch. In most cases, the task receiving the message responds to more than one command. In our case, the task will respond to get and set commands. Or in my case, it'll probably respond to just send commands or post commands. And the main function, an MPSC channel is created. So that's multi-producer, single consumer. All right. I think that's what we need because I need two different tasks to be able to send to the client. Let TX mute RX MPSC channel 32. Doubt if we'll need 32, but let's try it. Helps remove sibilance in your voice. The loud S and T sounds. Yeah. Now, partly that could be a level. Sorry, sorry it sounds harsh, but I did notice that the other day when I was playing back a VOD. It almost sounded like I have a lisp, and I don't think I have a lisp. I had to ask my partner, and she was like, "No, it's probably this really crappy mic too. I'm just wearing like an ordinary headset." Um, de-esser. I will find that out. In the meantime, I've turned the level down. I hope that helps. Yeah, I have no history with streaming whatsoever, so it's really a very recent thing. That's a good tip. Thank you. Oh no, I don't want anybody's ears getting hurt. Is the level better now, or is it not really to do with level? Equals MPSC channel 32. Um, it's the sibilance mainly, right? I will look that up this evening. This evening. Now I don't want to say S anymore. Oh, it has it built in. Would I be able to do it without turning the stream off? Let's have a look here. Maybe on the settings on audio mixer. Should be under filters. There is filters. I've got gain and noise suppression running, mainly because I've got an air-cooled PC sitting right next to me. Let's try compressor, expander, gain, invert polarity limiter, noise suppression, upward compressor, VST2X plugin. If there's an EQ, 3-band equalizer. Try reducing around 5 to 7K. I'm not sure I know how to do that. Would that be, it's got three sliders, high, middle, and low. In fact, here, I don't think there's any reason why I can't move the OBS screen over. Oh, it'll echo in it. But if I turn the highs down, is that what you're talking about? I suppose you would expect the S's and T's to be in the high range. Try reducing that a little bit and see what happens. More control, yeah, okay. There's probably some plugin I can just download. But yeah, that's a really good tip. Because I had noticed it, but I didn't realize it was that bad. It doesn't matter at all, man. It's very kind of you to tell me. There is very little in the way of flow here. It's all brute force and hope. Um, so NPSC channel 32, right? So and then they're passing them. I've been told that doing what I just did, switching from a dark screen to a light screen suddenly is called a flashbang. I don't know if that's true or not. And then let TX2 clone. Sure. So you would essentially have to pass those to the receiving functions so that they can use them. It's not possible to clone the receiver. Yeah, that's fine. And the RX, you would pass to the client. So we would do something similar to this. And it makes me super conscious about the it makes me super conscious about the S sounds now. Okay, authenticate would take a TX. Yeah, actually, let TX2 equals TX clone, and then the server would take a TX2, none of which will work right now, but let's just go to, first of all, we need to create the client. So let's go source OIDC client RS, and then OIDC mod pub mod client, and then in client we'll need a pub fn async fn client, which will take a what type is it exactly? It is a receiver unknown, which is not terribly helpful, but does it have to be specified with a type? Spawn a task that processes messages from the channel. Yeah. And he's already created a command type like that. In our case, I think we would want to create, or we would just want to reuse the IDC request type, potentially. All right, so can I use that as is, or Rx is receiver? Oh, that's good. And it will probably return a, what did I use for server? Result IR error. IR error, which is one of the hardest things in programming to say. Yeah. Okay. So now this exists. What did I call it though? No, I can't call it client because it's in the client module. Let's call it what? Handler? Um, sure, for want of a better word. All right. Um, yeah. So just to add these back in here. So we want flatten IDC, flatten server, and that's now OIDC auth. This is now OIDC server, and we'll add OIDC client, and we won't care about event sub for now, or for that matter, chat. Okay. Now we need to change the types of authenticate so that it doesn't take these two things, at least not for now. Instead, it takes, what's the opposite of this? Receiver, is it called a transmitter? Doesn't look like it. Oh, it was worth a try. What is this thing? It's a sender, of course it is. Send and receive. I want this one. Oh, no, actually I want this one. The type matters, so I'd probably better fix that in the other one. TX sender. And then this one is going to be not Unix type receiver, but MPSC receiver. Let's try that. Oh, missing generics. Yeah, I don't know what it's going to receive yet. So it won't build, but that's okay. We'll figure that out. A lot of this won't build because we're moving it anyway. In fact, this is probably going to have to take, in addition to the receiver, it's going to have to take config, which is going to be an arc. I don't know about arc mutex, probably just arc config. And that should be imported from there. And this should be imported from there. Okay, getting somewhere. That means that this needs to be config. I think the address of it. Um, yeah, IDC config is fine. Excuse the ridiculous ad break. Sorry about that. Right, now that gives us three things that have a way to communicate with each other. Now I need to move everything that is to do with creating the client out of out into its own module, and I need to define the interface that things can send commands to it with. So that's going to be, I guess, OIDC client command, or there might be a type in the OIDC Connect library that handles it for me, which will be nice. So let's go and have a look at that. What do we do when we send a request via our client? There's our client definition. Client exchange code, authorization code. Yeah, I think we're going to want a custom type. Yeah, so it's probably going to look something like, let's go to client, abstract, OID, DC client command. Oh, actually, it's going to be an enum. And where's their example? Yeah, here we go. So get and set is their example, but we're going to do send, no, exchange code. Now, the only hitch in this plan is that the server is going to need to know the value of the CSRF token. So we need to send it to both. Once it's created, What does it? Once we create it in the authentication step, we need to send it to the server so that the server knows what it is. Same with the nonce and the PKCE verifier. Um, hmm. All right, one thing at a time. Code. It's just going to be a string, and we do need the verifier in there. Or would I just hmm, to me, it makes the most sense to, it has to be in the server, right? Otherwise, because it has to be able to issue an error. Unless we send everything back to the client module and it does the comparison of the CSRF. And then the server route is just a dumb route. We don't care what the response type is. In fact, does it even have to be AXM? Probably doesn't, to be honest. Hmm. Let's take all of this and move it to the client stage, most of which works. OIDC client command. There we go. Right, that needs to be in scope. So we need that, and then this, and then this. Do a bunch of imports basically, do the import dance. One of these days I'll figure out how to convince Rust Analyzer that it can import everything at once. But today is not that day. Okay, good. So that's our client. And then we essentially enter probably into a loop waiting for new commands. Rx isn't used, of course. So the next step is while let some, yeah. exchange code. And then this is code and PKC verifier. And then client, what did we say it was? This. Something of that order. And of course we need the code, so like so. Find the type, and grab that type, and this one, yeah, I don't know. I think probably what will happen is that rather than getting the PKC verifier from the server, all we'll be getting is the code. The verifier will probably be set by the authentication part of it that actually launched it all. And I guess we'll just have to store it. That's going to be interesting. Maybe it'll pass it via mutex. No, that doesn't make sense. That's for sharing. Oh, it's still tricky, even with the channels, it's still tricky. Maybe I should just have the IDC be a separate web server. But I don't want to, I want to do it this way. It's more fun. Yeah, so I need to get a source for that basically. I need to understand whether it's coming in via the web server or whether it's coming in via a channel from another process. And if so, how do you combine them? Because you'll have two separate commands, one from the server, which is saying, hey, please exchange this code, and one from the authentication code stuff. And you don't really have any guarantee as to which one will happen when. You would anticipate that the web server will get a request after the PKC code verifier stuff has already been found. Hey, Nay, how you doing? Road of Fun is paved with pain and suffering. You're absolutely right. Async and Rust is a whole new adventure. We've got two potentially completely separate tasks, one which ought to follow the other, or which definitely follows the other. It's just a question of timings. Okay. Let's assume for now that we're not going to get the PKC verifier. Now, hang on. That comes from being created there. So actually, this probably isn't a problem. Let's go like this. Because if the client was created with it, it already knows about it. I'm overthinking it. Yeah, and then obviously respond to request. response handling, because we're not there yet. Okay, now next we have the other task that this has to perform, which is, where are we? IDC mod? No. Yes. Yes. The other task that the client has to do is authorize URL. Okay, which takes an authorization code. Oh, that can be done in the client. Takes a new CSRF token and a new nonce, all of which should be able to be done in the client. So really, I don't know that there's anything that we need to pass. The PKC verifier is already there. We're not using notifiers anymore. We do have to open the URL. Ah, okay. That's probably the interesting part. So auth URL is a response to that. So this has to be a two-way communication. Or else we can use the sender to send the request for a request, which is an OIDC client command. But we don't necessarily, it doesn't necessarily have to be two-way. We could instead use a separate channel to send a response. It just seems a little weird. Or for that matter, we could have yet another task that handles opening an auth URL. Seems a little funky though. I'm sure there is best practice attached to a lot of this stuff. I just don't know what it is. Okay. So they have got the types. We have MPSC, which we're using now, as in many to one. Then we've got one shots, single producer, single consumer. And that could potentially be quite useful. So let's look at where they use one shots. Send the commands over the channel and then receive responses. Yeah. So to pass the response, one shot is used. Single producer, optimized for sending a single value. No capacity is specified. Oh, I see. So the requester provides a channel for the for the client to send back the result. Oh, that's just sneaky enough to work. Okay. This is a whole new way of thinking. All right, all right. So we attach a responder and give it a type, basically. That's cool, actually. I like that. All right, cool. All right, all right, all right, all right. So, let's look at this here. It'd be very easy to get confused between the different types of channel, I think. So, what we'll do is we'll change our type so that in addition to the code, we won't send a PKC verifier, but in addition to the code, we will send, did we say responder? Is that what we're calling it? RESP. Sure, why not? And that's going to be a one-shot responder, receiver, responder. It doesn't know how to find those. Tokyo Sync one shot. Is it a feature? Maybe I have to enable it. Hmm. Okay. Maybe it is behind a feature flag. Create feature sync, but I'm pretty sure that's enabled. Create feature sync. Um, hmm. Has it got a list of features? No, those are futures. Hmm. Why wouldn't run one shot be enabled? Features full. 137.0, 137.0. Ah, that looks like my partner coming back, so I might just have to scoot for a little while. Cheers very much for hanging out, and I will actually be back in probably about half an hour to an hour. Take it easy.